Hello, everyone. My name is Igor Tomych, and today you're looking a new episode of a Fintech Garden Podcast, and with me, my co-host Dumitru. Hello, Dumitru.
Hello, Igor. Hello, everyone. I'm Dumitru Condrea, founder of NovaFin. Yes, Igor, today we have a very, very interesting topic to discuss.
And the topic is trendy and boiling everywhere in social networks, all the conferences, and it's called agentic payments. And even before starting the discussion, we discussed with Dimitri a little bit, and I think it's important to not mix up with the AI payments because sometimes it kind of feels that it's really the question that was brought by AI agents. But the main keyword, I think, here is agentic payments. And we discussed what is the definition. So, Dima, can you give your view how you think it can be explained for our listeners?
Agentic payments is, I tried to tell it by heart. I invented this definition. I'm trying now to tell it by heart. Agentic payments, it's not an AI. It's not like a Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini who are like doing payments for you. It's a system, an algorithm that can have the possibility to make payments without human interaction based on some rules, triggers, and events without human connection to do it autonomously. I know that, Igor, you have a little bit different vision on this.
I really love the word agency, and I'm taking it from the social theory because agency is something that when you show the ability to achieve the goal, and I think it's here overlaps what we see with the payments because we're living in a world where all the payments are driven by human. So all the designs, all the workflows, they design the way that there is a person who is interested in achieving the specific goal by buying the goods, buying the services, and then this person is practically going through the workflow, monitoring the outcomes and acting. And I think agentic payments by its nature, it's the new way rethinking how we do the payments for the services and good. And it means that in the center of the payments, APIs or programs are coming as a center, and then the humans, they given the goals. So it's a protocol or the framework when we think that the specific execution of the payment can be executed without real human be in the whole workflow.
We have to define till the end the fact that agentic payment, it's not a threat. Agentic payment, it's not a science fiction currently. It's already a reality. And there are already on the market examples, still incipient examples, of agentic payments. And seems like this will be the next niche for developing of fintech. Also, we have to discuss about what does it mean agentic. Of course, it comes from the classical AI topic with agentic bots that are doing for the humans are doing some different actions. I don't know, read emails, send some emails, resumes, or some text, paraphrase them, respond to customers in chatbots, and so on. From that topic, from that stream, the definition of agentic payments is coming. So basically, agentic payments doesn't mean only, hey, I would like to you as an agent to control my subscriptions, cancel them or renew them in case of parameters A, B, C, D. Agentic payments is also a tool and a thing that is needed also in business, because you as a business can use agentic payments, for example, managing different accounts. If you have different settlements on different accounts, crypto, fiat, you can set up agentic payments who will pay to your vendors from different accounts, do the treasury, for your accounts, transferring money from one side to another. As I said, pay to vendors based on their invoices that already you received via email or other channel. And also, agentic payment is a good, interesting tool for payment service providers, payment gateways providers, because you can set up agentic payment logic in subscription, in recurring payments. It's absolutely interesting market and field where this topic can develop.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Because one of the angle is like if you take a look on the protocols in the market, there is a protocol which is called X402, and one of the definition is machine-to-machine payment. Right now, a lot of things which we're doing right now is kind of on the edge because we used to go to Amazon or other e-commerces and look for the goods that we would like to acquire or buy manually. And there are a lot of LLMs, language models, which are helping right now to select the products, select the goods through the internet. But the last mile is still happening with a human into the process. And those protocols, they kind of designed and they starting to think what will happen if the whole process end to end, if I don't know, I'm looking for the new device for home, Wi-Fi router. And instead of like doing the research myself, I will delegate for the LLM or another agent online or whatever. And then when it actually finds something that fits into my parameter, I can give or grant authorization to this LLM to execute and actually order it and deliver it to my home. It absolutely falls into the idea that despite even not seeing agents as a part of our current life, we still have a really big need to actually execute machine to machine payments. Another good example is APIs, because we're all developing products. We are living in digital products world. And right now, there is no nice way how we can actually handle in APIs, because if you would like to pay for the specific search or for a specific request, you should usually do from the platform itself. So even take a look the example of LLMs. When you do the coding with the cursor or platform like that, you're basically operating with the tokens, and then you're paying for the subscription over the platform. You need to go into the page, you can subscribe for the specific level, or you would like to authorize and add your payment source for the card for using more tokens. But think about the process when, if you're doing something, you need to pay for the specific execution of the tokens or the specific request. And instead of doing it manually, there's going to be the process when you can kind of deliberately make a decision to pay for the specific research or automated actions, and it will be executed through the same workflow as agents they're interacting and working with APIs. I think it's pretty neat if you think like in the future, in 5-10 years. So instead of buying the Wi-Fi, you can say, okay, I would like to have the parameters of my network at home XYZ. Go search, and when you find the specific way for me to achieve this, I will grant you an option to buy it, and then you will do all the heavy lifting for me, like putting the delivery address, tracking the status, and then even sending me in inbox or in any other way the instructions how to set it up. I think it's pretty cool workflow, which is not achievable at this particular moment.
Yes, you mentioned all the things that agentic payments, can do. And because of this, we have to pay attention to our listeners and watchers that agentic payment, it's not equal to automatic payments or recurring payments. Automatization, the way how they work till early this year even, those automatizations are like delivering tasks and doing the task only based on the already preset up rules, triggers, and definitions. Agentic payments, it's a very agile thing. So they have also rules, they also have definitions, triggers, everything, but they are autonomously and smart enough and have enough capacity to take decision autonomously in case of something is not as was set in the rules. Sometimes it can ask you additionally, sometimes it can take even specific decision. So this is the main difference between agentic payments and automated payments. And if we are speaking about agentic payments, we have to define also what steps we as humankind, as a technology did that helped us to arrive here and do agentic payments. There are three things that helped us to be here at this moment. So the first thing is that current LLMs are really good enough to do this kind of a job. Those products existing on the markets, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and so on, they're ready and capable because of their performance, because of the things that they're delivering to do such kind of things currently. And they are basically already have all the needed knowledge and experience to take decision autonomously. We have to remember the fact and to keep in mind the fact that they already know how we are behaving. So they know our behavior. They understand what we purchase. They can understand what something is unusual purchase for us and so on. Second thing is mostly predominant in European Union or in continental Europe is the open banking and the options of open banking and how open banking reshaped the market. At the beginning, open banking was a necessity for making things more transferable between the banks, between providers, give customers possibilities to have in one single application, one single terminal, all their accounts and so on. So the presence of open banking here helped a lot to not even help, but made a very fast track for agentic payments to roll out and to be present here into our market. Third thing is the UX UI, current UX UI for the payment flow. It already became very, very heavy one because if we remember 10, 15 years ago, everything was super simple. You had a payment page where you have to introduce card number, your expiry date, and CVV. That's it. Now, because of different legislations, because of a lot of risk of fraud, because exists open banking, because people are using multi-currency accounts, multi-currency cards, and the payments, you're not doing payment anymore only mostly in your region or in your country. You're doing payments, you can pay something to a provider, to a vendor online who is located on another continent, and they have another currency, in their backbone, and you with your currency, for example, outside of European Union or Eurozone, you have to pay that. So because of this appeared different affixes, different hidden fees, different things that people just start to not to observe. Recurring payments, the same thing. So agentic payments came as a need to manage these kind of things too.
I think you touched really interesting point is basically the complexity of the current buying process and making the decision, because 10 years ago it was kind of straightforward. You have the bank, you have the checking account with a specific currency, and usually you have only one way to handle the payments in your base currency. And with the rise of the digital bank, which has eaten the market, one reason due to pretty flexible work with the different currencies. Like, let's be frank, Revolut initially built the whole empire on the travel cards. It means that instead of giving the pie to your local bank or like a salary bank, you're basically doing the conversion and then settling in the currency where you travel to another country, I don't know, Thailand, and then basically paying in Thai bahts or any other currency. So it actually means that the process of making this decision from which payment source, which vendor, which even location for the specific e-commerce to buy is kind of complicated. And LLMs are helping with that. And the hidden power, which might unlock even more wide use of the LLMs, is buying process. And I think what I'm missing at this stage, and I really would like to pick up your thoughts, like we're discussing agentic payment protocol, but let me try to shift a little bit. Like, does it mean that actually we will see agentic banking protocols? Because let's say if we have the rails which allow in the payment, it means that agent can actually take a specific card and execute. Still, it doesn't eliminate the need to proper settle in currencies. So is it covering all the potential business needs if we don't have a banking experience with the LLMs?
Well, I don't have a strict and clean answer here, honestly, because I think this is a niche that will be developed by different entrepreneurs and different businesses. I don't know how they'll manage this. And to be honest, I'm also scared about, not scared, but I still have questions how it will work from another perspective. Strong customer authentication, PSD2 thing. PSD2 and card schemes are built on the logic that they are sure that a human is making the transaction, making the payment, initiates the payment. Now, because of this, exist SCA, strong customer authentication protocols. How these protocols will work or how they will be changed. Because one thing is that agentic payment will do just trigger only one payment, in a day or in a minute or in an hour. But agentic payment can generate tens of thousands of transactions, initiate a lot of transactions in 1 single second. How this will be also managed from the card schemes or PSD2 or maybe PSD3, wherever it will be. And it means that a lot of shifting in the banking infrastructure, a lot of shifting in the payment infrastructure, in payment rails, in payment service providers, because I would like to ask all kind of AMIs and PSPs really to think about this. How we as businesses will work with this agentic payments when we have something that still blocks this, because someone has to initiate this, how the human control, human validation of initiation of a transaction will be applied. Also, the same thing that you mentioned, how the treasury will work when you have different currencies, inclusively fiat and crypto. I don't know, honestly. This seems like it can be a huge potential for the market, for some niches in the market. So if a year ago I was thinking that fintech already reached the limits and there's nothing new to develop, now after 1 year, because of LLMs, because of agentic bots, things changed and appears a totally new market in fintech that a lot of companies will try to cover.
Potentially, I have an answer, because like the best way to understand how the future will work is to go backward and think how it works with other cases which overlaps with what we think will be in the future. And as a good example, in my opinion, is Apple Pay and Google Pay. Because what is the difference between bot and your device which you are tokenizing your card? Because iPhone is actually storing your card. And yes, it doesn't make a decision by itself, but in some way, it actually an agent which is confirming to the merchant that you're good enough to execute this payment. And correct me if I'm wrong, my experience when you're paying with the Apple Pay, the acceptance rate is much better. And usually the strong customer authentication is not actually engaged in this process. Take a look on the usual card. If you go to POS and you're reaching a specific limit for the payments, you will be asked for the PIN. But if you do the same with the NFC and with your iPhone, it doesn't work this way. So I was thinking, like, is it going to be a little bit different what we have right now? Because when you're adding the card into the Apple Wallet or Google Wallet, you're basically going through pretty strict process for authenticating you. You have strong customer authentication, you have terms and conditions, the payload is stored on the device, and then with the biometrics, you're kind of confirming. But it's all about timing because you're confirming that you're buying a cappuccino in coffee shop right away before like you're authenticating, click in with the buttons, it reads your face, and then you put it into NFC reader. But what if the process will be kind of the same when you are authenticating and granting the permission to your agent? You will be the same way picking up from specific storage and just granting the limit. Like, I would like to buy a running shoes, and I'm giving you the budget up to $200. Go play with the like different sources, find the most suitable version for me, and then buy it right away because I have this appetite to kind of grant you this with a specific limit. Or as an edge case or worst case scenario, we can say, okay, I don't know how do I feel about the budget, but maybe when you find something which you think works for me, you will do in this moment the granting process, like you will notify with a push notification. And then on my device, which is having this ability to do the strong customer authentication, I will confirm the specific purchase. But instead of going, open the browser, authenticating, it would be a huge difference. I have really interesting, like maybe example. I'm buying the games for my kid on Switch. And usually it's so frustrating experience because the device is loading, it's authenticating you into the account, and then you need to scan QR code, log it in, try to put the number for the game or like select how much you would like to pay. Is it full amount or not? And sometimes it fails. The process is so human centric that sometimes reaching into the successful state takes you 2-3 times to do the approach because at some stage strong customer authenticating is not loading on the switch, you don't see the page, you cannot finish it. It would be so awesome to actually give consent to the agent, and then it will do all the retries on behalf of you, and you don't need to worry and spend time like trying to catch those notifications, those QR codes or those OTP messages, and then put them into the tiny, teeny, tiny box, which sometimes fails with the web view and JavaScript loading on the background.
And in addition to what you said, an agentic payment can also not be stick to a brand, for example, but they can just find the cheapest path between different affixes, different fees, intercharging to purchase those games or goods you want to do this, because they'll be focused on finding the best and cheapest solution for you to pay. Because we forget sometimes, we as a user sometimes forget that we pay a lot of fees when we make an online payment. Sometimes we are paying this, sometimes the merchant is paying this, but exists someone who pays. There's just a lot of situations when we are doing this. So agentic AI can understand quickly for a specific payment from a specific location, specific car, specific bin, and so on, to find the best route to make this payment. And this also will help, to minimize the cost. Maybe it will be a very interesting tool in fighting against the intercharging things, fees that are applied everywhere. But the most important thing here is those who will create such kind of infrastructure for agentic payments that will be delivered to end users, to simple users. Those companies will have the biggest challenge. Not technology, not PSD2, not banking, but trust. We are speaking a lot about the fact that it appears a new niche. One of the cornerstone of this niche will be the trust of end users or merchants. Because basically you, as a simple user, as an individual, you have to trust your money, or not specifically your money, but access to your money, to an agentic tool, a virtual machine, yes, to do with your money some kind of activities online, transactions online. And those who will solve also this, everything what we mentioned about like technical compliance thing and so on, they also have to deal with a lot of trust. So they'll have to build a lot of trust. And on this market, of course, will be some fraudsters at the beginning, by sure. But those companies who succeed in building trust to their customers, they will reach up the skies with, because this niche, this market is absolutely free and it's just incipient. By the way, exists already several startups who are working on some increments of agentic payments. Some of them are working, for example, in smart contracts platform between companies and KYC identification between companies. It's a very interesting thing. By sure, they will implement also agentic payments. Exist some kind of already tools that are helping you to supervise, monitor your assets, like I don't know, crypto assets, or play on forex, or purchase any kind of a companies or shares of a companies and so on. So exists already some startups, but everyone need to get a lot of trust, because here is the same thing what was the same path that was at the beginning with credit cards to pay online. People start need a little bit of time to get trust here.
That's a follow-up question to you, because it feels like we already have big tech who is having a lot of trust. Like take a look on the big giants: Amazon, Apple, Google, Facebook. Are they going to monetize the trust in their platforms, even though sometimes it's a social network, sometimes it's technology platforms? They will monetize this trust into building and utilizing agentic protocols for the payments. Because like recent use, Elon Musk is usually announcing that that's 1 or 2 days, 1 or 2 weeks when they will add the payments protocols into X, which is known as a Twitter. So why do you think, are they going to be one of the first?
They'll be one of the first, because a lot of things that Elon Musk promised, the ETAs at least, were not delivered in time, the most of the cases. But Elon Musk has big experience with PayPal, so he has in his backbone, he has basically the topic of payments. Who knows? Let's see. Of course, tech companies, big tech companies, already new brands like Revolut, Monzo, and 26 in Europe, they already have a big advantage in front of other players in the market, because they already gained the trust. If a financial institution with banking license will come with such services on the market, for them it will be easier to explain to their users the logic of trust and that they can trust. For those new, it will be quite heavy one. X here, unfortunately, is linked to the personal brand of Elon Musk. So, of course, there will exist a lot of people, those who are trust to Elon Musk brand, personal brand. Of course, they will try this. Why not? But those who do not, they will just ignore this, because unfortunately, a lot of things currently are linked to personal brands, and those personal brands are linked to politics sometimes.
I would like to explore maybe a really practical angle of agentic payments. Like before the session, I dig deep and try to see what is on the market. And fairly, there are two main protocols which I think kind of looks as a potential leaders in this market. Is X402, which is heavily based on the crypto and its API, or machine-to-machine protocol for the payments. So that's the case when I expressed earlier or highlighted earlier. When APIs is requiring certain payment to be executed, this protocol allows to execute the payment, send the confirmation that the payment has been executed, and then access certain parts which closed by the paywall for APIs, let's say like that. This one is heavily based on the stable coins and blockchains. But on contrary, like on the other side of the spectrum, I think AP2 is one of the interesting fiat protocols, because it's practically built and supported by the Google. There are a lot of news about MasterCard and even PayPal doing some kind of preparation to launch the agentic payments and collaboration with the different LLMs for e-commerce and stuff like that. But I was really surprised, because I wanted to find any really good cases of agentic payments. And surprisingly for me, the announcement that has been made in January 2026, that actually RevPay, Revolut Pay, one of the closest like real world cases for AP2 ready solutions. And it kind of circle back to the banking agentic payments, because we see that the tech companies or digital banks like Revolut, they aim in not just to the protocols for the payments, because the payment industry is really lucrative. When you have a huge base of the customers and you issuing the cards, you holding their balances, becoming the payment gateway is really interesting income, because it's not like you're just providing the store value. Another way, you're facilitating the payments. And since you're omitting the card networks, you're saving and gaining ton of margins in this case. So do you think we will see more cases like that when the classical banking institutions will jump into the agentic payments, because they basically sit in on huge infrastructure and customer base?
The same thing what happened with internet banking, the same thing that happened with neobanking. At the beginning, there will be some guys, some freaks, considered by the market as being freaks, somewhere on the limits of the market, who will invent such kind of things, who will provide ready products. Some of them will be observed by big companies or medium-sized companies, and they will be absorbed. Some of them will succeed to build their own products. And after some, when the market will start to shape to look more or less normally and regulated, let's not forget the fact that big banks, big financial institutions will not risk their license to go on something but it's still not yet compliant and under regulations. So at the beginning will be some guys, some people who will think out of the box. They will start to receive money from investors. Maybe they'll be absorbed by some existing companies. And third thing will be that legislation, compliance rules, regulators will start to react and to adapt the market itself. And when first increments of some regulations will appear, then finally the big banks and big companies will start to work here on the thing. So I think in 4 or 5 years, it will be the moment from now, from today, when the big banks, technical and financial companies will enter massively on this market. Seems like next 3 to 5 years, it will be the period when a lot of startups will appear, a lot of startups will disappear, initiatives will grow and shape a little bit the market. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, we'll already start to have some increments or some incipient moments of regulatory here, because as we mentioned during today's discussion, there are a lot of things that need to be solved and changed. So I think this will be the future of this market. Anyways, we understand that agentic payments is not science fiction, it's a reality. Exist already startups that are working with this. Maybe they are not dedicated fully to a financial tool or a financial company or a financial product, but they already are working on this and developing. We are just, at the first minutes of this sunrise of a new niche on the market. And in 3 or 4 years, it will start to shape the market, and we will start to understand how this business works, what are kind of the metrics here, and so on.
And I have analogy for that. I'm always trying to think like, what is the best way to describe to someone what is happening? And in my opinion, when living in the beginning of 20th century, when the concrete is basically becoming the go-to material for buildings, the buildings existed before, and we had, as a humanity, we have a long history building from wood, from other materials, but concrete changed the way how we're dealing with the speed and the quality of the buildings. I think we're living in the moment when I think those protocols, it's not obvious which one or which company will lead in this process, but we in the beginning of invention of the concrete, which totally will shape up the future of the payments. Because instead of relying on the browser, instead of relying on the specific payload or on your iOS or Android, it's going to be the protocol where a lot of machines, they talk with each other on your delegation and executing the payments on your behalf. So it's pretty interesting, and it will allow to open a lot of doors, and I think even shake up existing things that we think never will go away, as a network, card networks, or the local banking payments. Because if it's going to be facilitated by the agents, the compliance, the performance will be totally different. We're living in a world where everything we expect it to be in real time. So I'm pretty curious how we will come back to this topic even in 1 year, because we're just in the beginning, and let's see how it will progress.
That's it. We tried to discuss about this topic in only small portions of time, and I hope if you have any kind of questions, comments, we'll be happy to see those comments and questions in the comment section. Please press like, follow us, share our materials. We'll be very happy to see this. Me and Igor, we wish you to have a very productive rest of the day and a very productive week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.